Welcome back to the Community Warehouse. My name is Imran Nanlawal, and I'm pleased to be joined once again by my co-host Habib Qadri, educational leader, award-winning educator, and author. Habib, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Welcome to be back.
Yeah, it's been a long time, my brother. It's good to be back, and hopefully you've been well. I know we're gonna have a lengthy discussion sometime in the future about your educational tour. You went to Turkey, you went to Pakistan, and a few other places. You were up for a really prestigious award, which we'll discuss in the future.
Great, great. No problem at all.
So just want to bring on our next guest, Miry Whitehall, who is the founder and executive director of Mary's List. Mary's List is a movement of neighbors and friends dedicated to welcoming new arrival refugee families into our community through inspired crowdsourcing solutions. Very interestingly, Mary got interested in this work because a friend of her had introduced her to a refugee family, and Mary's kids and the refugee kids were of the same age. So Mary's going to give us more background information in terms of what was that spark, like what really motivated her to start this initiative. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Mary onto the screen. Hello, Mary.
Hi. Hey, thanks for having me. It's so nice to see you today and get to spend some time together.
Our pleasure to spend time with you and to learn from you, and we're just happy to have someone of your caliber and your dedication on our show.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So, if Habib, may I have the first question?
Oh, for me, first of all, thank you so much for taking this opportunity. And I've heard some great stuff about you from Imran. But so I just wanted to kind of get an idea, like what got you into this idea of supporting refugees? Did you have like a personal experience? So just want to first, before we ask you a lot of questions, just for our audience to know, like, just your background and like what caused this thought process of like, helping supporting individuals who you might have never known, and said, hey, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that transition is better.
This began for me it'll actually be almost 6 years ago in 2016. Miry's List today is a nonprofit organization working with families resettling as refugees in the United States. But in 2016, I myself was taking a break from my career in advertising to be home with my children, who at the time were 5 months old and 3.5. I was very busy keeping my kids alive, and that was really difficult. And, I was in my own kind of sort of state of survival at that point. And a friend of mine had just met a family who had moved to LA as refugees from Syria. About 3 weeks prior, they had been here less than a month, and they had a baby who was the same age as my youngest. That's what gave her the idea to call me and ask for some help, because they just needed some basic childcare supplies. Mm-hmm. And that was originally how I met the first family who would become the first Mary's List family. Meeting this family, being in their home. I just remember we were just kind of sitting there on the floor in the living room having this beautiful picnic of, a group of people who didn't even share a language. They speak Arabic. We were kind of using Google Translate to help with, but mostly it was just watching the kids and smiling and laughing. And it was so awkward, but it was just such a loving adventure. And I was just immediately drawn into this experience, and also just looking around the room and just seeing that this was not a home that was functional, set up to be functional for a family. In addition to the baby, they also had 2 5-year-old twins. And, in the bathroom, there wasn't towels. There wasn't, the basic supplies. There was a feeling of just kind of like a vacancy, like it was an empty apartment, although there had been a family of 5 living there for 3 weeks. Was startling to me because, I was in, just living 20 minutes away in a completely different situation. Like my problem was that I had too many towels. Like they were all in a pile on the floor in the bathroom. And, I just saw this opportunity to jump in and kind of help them just to get that home set up. And ultimately, I got to learn a lot more about, the different challenges that families in this situation, who are coming here, resettling, fleeing violence, fleeing persecution. I was faced with some of my own assumptions about kind of what happens for refugees when they come to the United States. You know, I've learned so much about what the government provides, and, you know, getting to meet a lot more families. We enrolled our 761st family
Wow.
in our program this week. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank
It's
you.
no, it's amazing because I always tell individuals that I mentor or talk to, like, we have these amazing ideas, but we often fail to execute on them, and sometimes it just takes this one little spark to take us from ideation to execution. And it's amazing to know you're just a mother, you're at home, you're trying to survive, you're trying to raise your kids, and then because you have this chance, well, we would say it's not a chance, but you have this interaction with this refugee family, and they have kids that are of the same age as your kids, and it just puts something in your heart where you're like, I have to do something, right? And you gave a great comparison. They didn't have towels, and you have extra towels. So it's just thinking about something as small as that. So again, we're inspired by having you on, and it's just amazing to know the background story. Our good friend Golam, who's also on the board, speaks about Mary's List so often, and just to know how the organization started and where it's come, to the present day is really amazing.
Thank you.
Mary, what do you think are some of the challenges? Like, for a lot of individuals, audience here, like, for refugees, what do you think maybe are like three major challenges a refugee family maybe goes through when they're transitioning from another country to America?
Great question. I mean, there are truly, and it's an endless list of potential challenges that can come up for a family, especially a family with young children, especially a family who's coming with grandma or grandpa, a senior in the home.
Mhm.
We work one-to-one with every single family to talk with them about their unique situation based on the priority of those needs. We have three pillars of that. The year that we are spending with the family is broken down into these three pillars: survive, hive, and thrive. And we find that using this kind of like ordered method of our approach with the family means that we're going to be able to address their most urgent needs, and then we're going to kind of take them through the process where we're beginning to think longer term.
Mhm.
So we'll start with just doing a needs assessment,
Mhm.
and, asking, does everyone in the family have a bed to sleep in at night?
Mhm.
And, that's, I would say, what's the first challenge? Not having the supplies that you need in your home to be functional and comfortable. Second challenge that would come up, needing to learn the language. It's very common that one or maybe a couple of the family members will come here speaking English, like you and me, like really, really high level English. But also there's a lot of people in our program that just need practice speaking English. And then a third thing I would say, that's probably career development and mentorship. Finding jobs that are within our family's area of expertise.
Mhm.
They're utilizing their education and experience, making sure that it's a true career path. There's so many engineers and doctors in our program who are working nights as security guards, who drive Uber and Lyft, because if you can't meet your own most urgent needs, you don't have the option to slow down. And it's such, all of this goes under the umbrella of, why are these things so particularly difficult for resettling families, versus, I would say all three of those things are hard for pretty much almost every vulnerable population. It's particularly hard for resettling refugee families in the United States, though, because the government provides just 90 days of support.
Mhm. I see.
There is a huge limit on what's available as far as support
Mhm.
from the licensed resettlement agencies. And that's why community-based organizations like Miry's List and the other organizations that are doing this work, we're actually in a national coalition called the Hello Neighbor Network.
Mhm.
These are people who are working directly with families in their communities. And it's so important to provide these community-based resources in addition to what they're receiving from the government.
I see. So As you had talked about, you brought up that I think there are 3 steps that you guys focus on. I just wanted to kind of make sure just for the audience, if you could, share those 3 one more time. I know one was survive, and then what was the second one?
Survive, hive, thrive.
Hive
Yes.
and thrive. I gotcha. Okay,
Yes.
okay, so you and this is the process like for your team and say when you meet a family, hey, that's where that whole basic necessities, and then the idea of kind of understanding those language, and then kind of give them at the idea of the career jobs. So that placement. So you're kind of following them for some time. It's not just like, hey, 90 days, we got you. Hey, now on your own. So like, just give us an idea. Like, how long do you think you're working with the family? Is it for a year or two, or um, just kind of just a timeline for us to understand?
It's a 12-month program.
I see. Okay.
But I got to tell you, most people who graduate, they stay involved. They stay involved attending our events, participating as volunteers. A lot of people that work at Miry's List are graduates of our program. This is a community. I have found that people who come and sit down at this table with us, they stay. They stick with us. And Gulam, was our original connection, he's an example of somebody who just heard about the work, came to the table with so many areas of talent, expertise, and ability and connections. And, now years later, we just had our first $1 million year. Just a few months ago, we had $1 million raised at a time where we have doubled the number of people who are participating in our program this year compared to last year. In October 2021, we enrolled 5 times more families than we enrolled in October 2020.
Oh.
So this is coming at a very critical time.
Mm. And are you focusing on a specific refugee population, or are you kind of like, hey, if new refugee comes into this, are you just specific, if it's just from Syria or Afghanistan, or say, hey, you know what, from any specific region, and then the second thing is Mary's List focused on just where you're based from, or is it a national effort? Is certain states that you're working with? Just to also kind of give us a better idea for some people who maybe want to help.
Yeah, so Miry's List programming is available to anybody that comes through the United States Federal Refugee Admissions Program in the last 12 months. So anytime, somebody can apply anytime in their first year in the country, and our program lasts 12 months. Now, we began here in Los Angeles. That's where I'm here in my home office in LA. We expanded to Southern California. That was all kind of happening in the first year. We went from first family to 40 families served in the first year of Miry's List. Then Sacramento came onto the map for us, and we enrolled about 100 families from Sacramento. And now we're serving families across 19 states nationally. And 30% of our families live in the DC metro area, Virginia. And that's actually where I'm from. I'm from Maryland. It's such a thrill to be able to meet people over the phone and, get to welcome them and let them know that, they're living in my home state.
Could you talk to us about this really cool initiative I was reading about on the website, the pop-up dinners, and what purpose they serve?
So I think you are referring to our program, New Arrival Supper Club. This is a program in that third Thrive category of the program. And it's specifically for resettling chefs. It can be professional chefs or home chefs. But we found very early on, I was describing that like kind of living room picnic that I had with the first family where, they just kind of brought out what they had. And, a lot of sitting down and spending time with somebody who you don't share a language with is made more comfortable and just more exciting when you're sharing a meal. And it's this kind of universal language that like you sit down at the table with someone and you share a meal and you become bonded as friends. And New Arrival Supper Club came about in 2017 when a volunteer had an idea to host a dinner party that was catered by a chef, a Syrian chef in our program. And she said, I'll host it in my backyard. And we did it. We put up a ticket page. It sold out in 2 hours. and NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt came. And we realized that this was not a one-off dinner party. This was something that was tapping into a need, which was opportunities to meet our new neighbors, opportunities to learn about the culture of another. And then this one is so important, opportunities for resettling refugee families to show off their skills and their talent and their family history. Family recipes are family history. And like, I will talk about kabuli palau with every single family that I get the opportunity to, because everyone has there's family history that's tied to these important comfort foods. So, 5 years later, New Arrival Supper Club, we have done monthly events since then. We have been able to employ resettling chefs. We've been able to continuously raise money for Miry's List. And tens of thousands of people have been able to experience the culture of a new arrival family, get to meet their new neighbors. And for us, it's just bringing so much more attention to really what Miry's List is all about, which we're not here selling kabuli palau or selling falafel or, depending on what the menu is and who's cooking, but, we're here to create opportunities for people to connect as new friends, new neighbors, to make our community stronger. That's what it's all about. These simple moments of human connection. It can even be done during a global pandemic when you can't even be in the same room as someone. And let me show you where's my box of letters? Oh, unfortunately oh, it's over there. I'm going to get it. Hold on. You're going to love this. In 2020, as we were trying to kind of navigate how we could adapt our program to exist with all of the connections, but we would have to do it virtually, we started asking people to write welcome letters to our families. This is the mail I picked up this week.
Wow.
We get a box like this every couple weeks. People from all over the country are able to send in, these handwritten notes that, I'll read this one. It says, "Dear friend, you are kind, smart, lovable, beautiful, and worthy. May all the good you give come back to you. Much love from Shauna." And we put these letters on top of every single item that we send to families. And so when a family opens up a box that's from Miry's List, they know that it's coming from an organization that's made up of people who care. And those letters, we'll put a whole pile of them on top. And we're able to almost create opportunities to counteract some of the messages that they have been exposed to about the way American people feel about immigrants. And I think it has a transformative impact.
So, Mary, like, for example, if I'm in Chicago, and if I find out there's a refugee family, for an individual like me, is it where we could contact you and then you help us find resources to kind of like, okay, hey, they got settled, but now they need these next 12 months to kind of, and you will be a resource for a family here? Or do you you kind of set them up so if someone wants to be a part? One is financially, and all the audience here, make sure you can help out support Miry's List. But if suppose one say, well, I want to help out, or you might be a religious organization where you might cater or have people of that ethnicity in that area of these refugees. I just want to kind of to walk some people through who might be listening, who might be not in California, Imran's in Dallas, I'm in Chicago, and say, oh, you know what, hey, if some people watch this and say, well, okay, what would be the process if someone wanted to get involved?
Well, that second step, Hive, that's where we are getting a lot of people involved with the families directly. And, I mentioned, learning English, and like participating in our English conversational English program would include that family being matched with a trained volunteer tutor. Tutoring English is one way to get involved with Miry's List, but there are so many more ways to get involved. Another program that we're offering in that Hive phase, where we're just trying to increase the number of community connections that each family has. So local friends are so important in this hiving experience, not necessary because we're able to provide that hive for families who even live in very remote places where we don't necessarily have staff or volunteers.
Mhm.
But that is, you know, it's such an important time where, with everyone's permission, people getting involved directly. We have lots of volunteers who are making wish lists for families, taking this like long list of needs and turning it into an online wish list. We have people who are volunteering as family ambassadors, and that's kind of working with a few friends, or maybe it's a classroom of students, but making sure that one family's wish list gets completely fulfilled. Um, these are, a few of the examples of ways that people are getting involved with Miry's List. We have a volunteer page on our website where we describe those and then a lot more. And it's so needed. We're able to accomplish a lot with a very small staff. We're just 16 people, and it's thanks to the contributions of our volunteers.
Could you give us an example of transformation that you've seen in terms of a particular family? If you don't want to give us a name, that's fine. But if you could talk to us about a family that came in, and obviously a lot of these refugees who come in, as you mentioned, the reason that you have the survive model or the survive step is because some of them just need the very basic steps in the beginning. But give us an example of a family now that's thriving, a family that's gone through the program and that's giving back and maybe even doing some amazing things in their locality.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many examples that I find this work to be so fulfilling because I get to kind of watch so much incredible personal development, families who are going through huge transitions together and coming out the other side and inspiring others. I am, reminded of a family. They moved to the U.S. In 2019 from Afghanistan. Um, Dad is a medical doctor. Um, upon arrival to the United States, he said he wanted to take advantage of this transitional time to relaunch his career. He said he always wanted to start a business. And over the course of a couple of years, that's what he did. He just launched a private security firm. He is hiring folks who come from Afghanistan and who worked with the U.S. military like he did, and able to provide jobs for people who are in the situation he and his family were in just a few years ago. Um, I think that's really cool because, we we know that when people come here as refugees from other countries, that it's really hard for them to kind of bring their careers with them. And this was a person who has always had a dream to be a business owner, and he was able to make that dream come true. And it kind of changes in a different way, like, that narrative of like not continuing your career because of a loss. This was something that was part of him getting onto a path of accomplishing his dream. And, we're able to help him even today. He came to us, he said, all right, we got licensed, we launched the website. Now we need some help with social media marketing. All right, we're going to find you an expert in social media marketing who's going to work with you. And so, when we put the word out in our hive of volunteers, hey, who's available to help this new business owner from Afghanistan? There was a lot of people who raised their hand. So, we picked a couple, and now he has a team of people who are dedicated to his success. This is about, showing up for someone in their time of need, but also, making space for that person to give and receive.
Wow. Complete loop, right? In terms of someone who's helped and now is probably donating, hiring people, like, as you mentioned, that were in the same situation as he was. Now, if on the flip side, can you give us a story of a volunteer that maybe started off in the organization and has just maybe moved up the ranks of the organization, or who maybe someone who just did it to fulfill community service hours, but now is just so connected to the organization? And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times, you know, what you see on social media is reality, right? So if I see this organization, Mary's List, they have a lot of big people behind it, or they finally raised $1 million this last year, I may think, you know what, there's not much I can give them. But in reality, once you start giving and you're on the ground, you'll see so many more opportunities open up.
Well, first of all, every single member of our staff started out as a volunteer, myself included. Um, across the board. When we have a new position open up, we are always like, all right, who's already doing that job as a volunteer? And then we just hire that person. It's been a wonderful for recruiting because it means we've never had to like work really hard to find the person. Um, People show up to do this. The people who are doing this work with us, it's because they are so dedicated and so passionate about this work. Um, I think that I am probably like most moved by my colleague, the way my colleague Christina got involved with Miry's List. Um, it was, she told me some of this backstory, but all I know it is from when she originally emailed us. But it was at a really critical time in 2020. It was at a time that our families needed things really urgently. Things like a laptop so they could attend school. Like our families couldn't attend school when schools closed. A lot of them just didn't have the devices and face masks and hand sanitizer and like all of these emergency things. And I had a conversation with our head of programming and realizing that we had to have an emergency campaign where we would launch all of the families' wish list, like probably 50 to 100 extra than we were typically doing, and then matching each one of those lists with dedicated ambassadors, volunteer ambassadors. We realized that this campaign was going to need full-time oversight. And we were like, all right, let's see if we can find that person. The very next day, I got an email from somebody named Christina who basically said, I was walking with my partner last night and they asked me, what's the kind of job that you want? What's your dream job? They were just kind of having a conversation about like careers. And she said, well, I'd really like to work at an organization like Miry's List. And her partner on that walk encouraged her to send me the email that she sent me that night. And it said, I am so passionate about this work. I've been following Miry's List. I've been contributing to the list. I want to do anything that you need. And here's what I'm good at: organizing spreadsheets, coordinating people, talking to people over the phone. She basically wrote the job description of the exact thing we needed. That I called her that day and I said, would you be willing to be the director of our ambassador program? And she said yes. And today she oversees program development. Christina Karasis is leading our entire wish list program. She is making sure that the programming that we're offering in that high phase of Miry's List is aligned with what our family's needs are. That means that she's like working with every member of our family services team to find out more about what our families need. It's a position that like she basically, created through doing the work. She got involved with that one ambassador campaign for those 100 families. But then when we completed it, we were like, all right, what do you want to do next? We will literally give you any job. So, and we have, there's a volunteer in our welcome workshop. This is part of our survive programming in that first pillar. Sending essential supplies, packing those supplies into kits for families, getting them out. An incredible, she's a senior in high school now. Her name is Layla. She goes to a school here in LA. She decided to volunteer with Miry's List last summer. And she's doing her senior capstone about work, helping resettling refugees. Well, she never stopped volunteering with us. She came every week in the summer and she has come twice a week since then. So for another 6 months. And, I think that, for a high schooler, a senior in high school to be making time, even when they, the summer internship ended, but she was still in. And I know, I hope she's waiting to hear back from colleges right now. And I'm like crossing my fingers that she's going to go somewhere local, but she applied for schools that are far away. I think one in Chicago, actually. But, what we hope is that the people who are participating in Miry's List, whether you're as a volunteer, staff member, we call it the dream team, the people that work at Miry's List. We want everyone to be building towards the skills they want, the relationships they want, the kind of work environment that they want to be in, ultimately that is what would be a success for me.
I'm gonna, Mary, just ask a tough question that a lot of times, being an immigrant myself and working in, sometimes in the community, the question comes up, sometimes in not in general public, but like in small kind of conversations. And now why I wanted to ask you, because you deal day to day with individuals who are refugees. Some might say, well, okay, we're bringing in these refugees and it's affecting our economy or maybe our jobs. Maybe that adds on more people to the where we have to give for welfare. So maybe it's taking a toll on America, having these refugees here. What would you say to that, individuals who might feel like, hey, this is causing just more human capital and financial capital, taking care of refugees? I just want to kind of get your thoughts of how, to just the general public who might be watching, or this might get forwarded to others and saying, well, hey, this is great, this is what you're doing, but just want to maybe see if that's something you're okay to get your thoughts on. Or you might maybe heard about this before. I don't know.
I've heard it all. I've heard it all. I would say, first of all, it's very well documented over the course of many years, decades, that, this country has been resettling refugees basically since after World War II, when boats full of mostly Jewish refugees, including my great-grandparents, were coming here fleeing the Nazis. By the way, before there was a modern-day refugee resettlement program, there was nothing to do with those people who were coming on boats. A lot of those boats were returned, and a lot of those people didn't make it. That was the circumstance under which the modern day refugee resettlement program was created. And there has been data collected since then that shows, in every which way that you cut it, that refugees and immigrants add to our society in every which way that you look at it. And that's probably what I would say to that person to go look into. The other thing that I would ask that person, unless they are Native American, their family came from somewhere. And I'd love to know more about that. We have an opportunity to show up for people who are arriving right now, not because we necessarily have been through what they've been through, but someone showed up for my great-grandparents, and I find it super fulfilling to be able to do that today. And actually, Miry's List partners with HIAS, which for a number of programs, and we'll probably do more of it in the future. But my grandparents came here through HIAS. That was their resettlement agency when we came, all those generations ago. My great-grandparents, excuse me. And I think that that's important. This isn't something that is so far away or removed from any person here. And this is not about an economy. This is about moms and dads and toddlers and babies and teens and grandpas and grandmas, young couples that are about to have their first baby, and they're doing that without having their parents and that kid's grandparents local. That's really difficult. We can intervene. We can help families get the things, personal connections and community and the programming that they need to ultimately do what all of us want, which is that they're contributing members of society, that they're here to give, to develop themselves, to create opportunities for themselves and their children. It is just as important that their children's needs are met that as ours. That's what we believe. And there's not a political party that disagrees with that. Everyone believes that families should have what they need to take care of themselves. It's just the basics.
Well, Imran, for me, I just want to say thank you, Mary, for giving an opportunity to educating us and helping us learn about the refugee community. And then hopefully we could inspiring us to hopefully lead in any way that we can, and any way that could be, if that could be volunteering the time to giving support to Mary's organization and the other organizations, and then even the refugees, for educating them as they're transitioning here and helping them learn the ins and outs of the routines, and then leading and letting them lead future, therefore family and future individuals, refugees that come. So I really want to thank you for taking your time, and Imran giving me an opportunity to have this opportunity to be with you through to Imran. So I just want to say thank you so much, Miry, for this, and Imran for giving me an opportunity to be here and learning more about this and being inspirational. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I was quiet most of the time because it was just a learning experience, and I think it's great. Just even Ghulam is a good friend now, and he's also he was part of a small team that started a refugee organization in Houston, and just the commonalities between the individuals you get to interview and learn from, which is there's a spark, there's something that just makes everything click, and I think I loved what you said, Mary, is passion and purpose, and when you figure out what your passion and your purpose is, everything else becomes much easier, right? It's easy to put in those long hours. It's easy to put in the long nights, sleep less, and get this work that needs to get done. So I really appreciate it, and I'm going to encourage everyone to go to maryslist.org, learn about the organization, donate, and read about certain programs that might align with what your what values you have, and support the organization in whatever way that you can. So, Mary, thank you again for making time for us, and we hope to have you on soon.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, Habib. So great interview today with Miri, and thank you again for co-hosting, and looking forward to the next one.
For sure, and I appreciate it, and thank you again, Mary, for coming on and sharing her story. I think it's great, and then very inspirational. I think there's things that we can do. So everyone who's watching, think about what you can do to help out.
Yep, and learn from others that have done it, like Mary, like our friend Ghulam, who we've interviewed before. Very, again, simple people, not people who come from affluent, means or backgrounds. There's a passion, there's a spark, and then there's a dedication to figure it out, right? I'm gonna take the towels that I have on my bathroom floor or in my linen closet, and I'm gonna donate them. I'm gonna take the extra cans of soup and I'm gonna donate them, right? Or I'm gonna save a couple $100 every check and I'm gonna donate it. I'm gonna volunteer my time. There's not only donation through money, but there's donation through your intellectual creativity, your intellectual ability, and also your time. So think about those things, and we'll see you all soon.
All right, make sure educate, learn, and lead. Have a great day.